Backup Kenny Pickett, who's dealing with a rib injury, said yesterday that he is ready to go for Sunday's game against the Cowboys. All right? So, Elle, looking ahead, as the Eagles have Super Bowl aspirations this year, what's the biggest question that you see facing their Super Bowl chances?
Nick Sirianni.
Oops.
That was fast.
Don't laugh.
Right,
I don't have concerns. You know, they lose to the Commanders. Like, they were completely a one-side. You could tell they didn't want, whatchamacallit, anywhere near that freaking ball. Kenny Pickett, anywhere near that ball. I'm not concerned about what I saw based on them. I think they've got all the tools. I think their defense is great. Nick Sirianni, to me, is always the biggest question mark because the dude just, like, majors in self-destruction. You know, we should be talking about Jalen Hurts and in concussion protocol, how that impacts what Saquon Barkley's doing, how that impacts their ability to lock up the number 1 seed, even though it looks like it's probably not going to happen after they lost. And instead, we're over here talking about Nick Sirianni having to apologize to Zach Ertz because he talked trash to him and gloated after the game. Like, this dude just time and time again, and on the field as well, with some of his mismanagement of the clock and the stretch, and we've seen that a couple of times this year. I just don't trust Nick Sirianni to not be able to get out of his own way. To me, he's going to be the biggest. And that's a problem, RC, when you consider that he's got one of the best winning percentages that we've ever seen as a head coach. In fact, the only guys that are ahead of him on the list are all Hall of Famers. But again, with Nick, it always comes down to that self-destructive behavior and his inability to get out of his own way.
I think the thing I look at Nick Sirianni and I always wonder is why is Nick Sirianni treated in a way that no other head coach is treated?
How
Right?
so?
Yeah.
In the sense that he's trying to go speak to Jalen Carter, and his defensive line coach is standing in between Jalen Carter and Nick Sirianni, not allowing Nick Sirianni to talk to Jalen Carter, right? You think about after the game, having the spat with Zach Ertz. How often do you see the opposing head coach have an issue or an altercation with someone on the other team, even if they played for him or not?
Correct.
And so that begs the question to
Look
me
at all
is,
fans.
that question is to me then, is Nick Sirianni not treated like a head coach? Because Nick Sirianni doesn't treat the head coach position like a head coach is supposed to treat it.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm not running into the stands, I can't have an altercation with the fans, right? If I'm not looking at them and talking to them, then they can't talk to me. And you're not supposed to, right? We don't expect those sorts of things from Andy Reid. We don't expect those sorts of things from guys like Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin. And so for Nick Sirianni, it's how do you put the focus on what the focus should be on? And that's the fact that Saquon Barkley is having a historic run at his position. The fact that Quinyon Mitchell and guys like Cooper DeJean are playing at a high level as rookie. Jalen Carter is now taking over this league as one of the best interior players in all of football. And so I agree with you. I believe Jalen Hurts can do what he needs to do. I believe that they can do what they need to do from a defensive standpoint. But it's how do we find a way for Nick Sirianni, the man that is supposed to work to limit distractions, to not be a distraction?
Correct.
With all due respect, Coach Nick Sirianni can be a problem, but he can't throw no touchdowns. He can't even throw a hitch. He can't make a tackle. He can't do none of that. But if he becomes the biggest distraction and they win, it's no longer a distraction. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
So it goes to my point where it's like, it's Jalen Hurts. In the playoffs, a quarterback is known solely on his postseason performance.
Yeah.
He has everything. We're overlooking all the